Are you thinking about moving to Charlotte, North Carolina? Well, hold your horses because it's not all leprechauns and unicorns in the great state of North Carolina. There are some negatives, especially if you're moving from New York, California, DC, Illinois, or Florida, which is actually where a lot of our clients we're working with right now are moving from. There can be a little bit of a culture shock, so we want to make sure you know these negatives. That way you can be well prepared. If this is your first time on the channel and you want to know everything about the Charlotte area, make sure you click that subscribe button and turn notifications on so you'll be the first to know about what's going on in the Charlotte, North Carolina market. My name is Josh Finigan, team leader with the Finigan Group, powered by eXp Realty, and my team and I get calls and emails from people just like you looking to move to the Charlotte area every single day, and we absolutely love it. So whether you're moving in 9 days or 90 days, feel free to give us a call, text us, email us, or you can schedule a Zoom meeting with me using the link in the description below. We'd be happy to make your transition to Charlotte, North Carolina a smooth one. So as I mentioned before, we'll be covering the most negative aspects about living here in Charlotte, North Carolina. Make sure you stay tuned till the end because the last one will probably surprise you. So guys, let's go ahead and jump on in with the weather. And I'll tell you, we get asked about the weather a lot, especially if you're moving from California where the weather is perfect all the time. We definitely have all 4 seasons here, so the weather fluctuates a lot throughout the year, and the weather can change pretty rapidly. For example, today we're at the end of November and I am freezing my butt off out here, but just last week, I could have been sitting in my swimming trunks on my back porch getting ready to go on the boat. And the summers can get pretty hot. In summer, we can have temperatures of the upper 90s and lower 100s, and we do have a little bit of humidity, which can make it feel a little bit warmer than it actually is. But in my personal opinion, I don't think the weather gets too hot in the summertime, especially with that humidity. But I went to college at Charleston, which is right on the coast, where the humidity is ridiculous. So it's literally, when you go there in the summertime, it's like you enter into an oven. So the summers here, you have a little bit of humidity, but it's not as bad as places like Florida or on the coast of the Carolinas. So for those of you coming from up north, the summers can possibly get a little bit unbearable, but if you're moving from Florida, you're probably gonna think the summers are a breeze. And it definitely can get pretty cold in the wintertime as well. Usually between December and February, you can start seeing some freezing weather come about. And I am a baby when it comes to cold weather, and you can probably tell with this giant jacket I'm wearing when it's 45 degrees out. So those of you moving from up north are probably laughing at me right now because I'm freezing my butt off, and this would be a great outdoor day for you. But overall, Charlotte winters are pretty mild with a few cold snaps. We can get some snow, but it is quite rare. We usually average a couple inches of snowfall every single year. But I will definitely warn you, if we do get snowfall, that is something that the Charlotte area cannot handle. Everything shuts down, nobody can drive if there's even a little bit of ice on the roads. So you want to make sure you prepare yourself for that. And I remember when I was in school, anytime there was ever a chance of snow, even if it was the night before and there was a slight chance of snow the next morning, they would cancel school because we just couldn't handle that cold weather if it snowed. So we'd wake up the next day, a lot of the times, it'd be 65, 70 degrees out, beautiful and sunny. We'd be able to enjoy the day off. So you could definitely experience all types of weather here in Charlotte, North Carolina, but all in all, we really do have nice weather. In the summer times, yes, it does get pretty hot. In the winter times, yes, it does get pretty cold. But I'll tell you, I love the springtime. It is a fantastic time to be here in Charlotte. And a lot of people love moving here because of the changing seasons. I can't tell you how many people love coming to watch the leaves change every single fall. Now, while we're talking about weather, I do have to mention that Charlotte can see a lot of different types of severe weather. You can see tornadoes, hurricane-related impacts, snowstorms, and flooding. So Charlotte can experience a variety of weather-related events, but you know, they're quite rare, and when they happen, they're usually not that bad. I mean, we can see the remnants of hurricanes, but we're about 200 miles away from the coast. So usually if a hurricane does reach us, it may be either a severe storm at that time or a tropical storm as well, which is not that bad when you compare it to a hurricane. We can see tornadoes, but they're not extremely prevalent here, and they typically don't last long. They can cause damage, but usually not a ton of damage, and it's usually affecting a small amount of people whenever tornadoes do touch down. But you will probably see alerts for tornado warnings when you move here to Charlotte. So we can see ice storms and even hail on occasion here in the Charlotte area, but they are quite rare. One thing to remember though, like I said earlier, if they do happen, we really can't handle it, so it seems like it causes more damage than if it happened up north. So all in all, we do experience various types of extreme weather, but it's usually not that bad. Next up on the list of negatives about living here in Charlotte, North Carolina is the allergies, mainly caused by all the pollen in the air. Sometime in spring, usually between March and April, everything in Charlotte gets painted yellow by all the pollen in the air. When the pollen comes down in the springtime, I'll tell you guys, it is extremely hard to keep your car clean. If you go get your car washed, literally later that day, it will be painted yellow again with all the pollen. So if you do struggle with allergies, it's definitely something you want to pay attention to while moving to Charlotte, North Carolina, because it is quite prevalent throughout the changing seasons here in Charlotte, North Carolina. Now, one great remedy for allergies is local honey. It definitely helps quite a lot, and you can find it through any of the local grocery stores or farmers markets in the area. The local honey has a lot of antihistamines naturally in it, so it definitely helps with the changing seasons and the allergies. Next up on the list is bugs, all the creepy crawlies. And guys, number one on the bug list, I'll tell you, is my worst enemy is mosquitoes. They are everywhere here in the Charlotte area. Some areas they are more prevalent than others, but no matter where you are outside, you will probably run into mosquitoes. Now, our mosquitoes aren't as bad if you're coming from places like Florida or where I went to college at over in Charleston, where it's a little bit more marshy, but you're definitely gonna run into mosquitoes here in Charlotte. And you'll experience mosquitoes, especially if you live closer to bodies of water, I mean lakes, rivers, or if you just have standing water kind of in or near your backyard, you're gonna find the mosquitoes. But there are a lot of great companies you can hire that will come out every single month and spray your backyard for mosquitoes to really minimize that problem. And we have June bugs, which is quite common in the Carolinas. They're very prevalent in June and July. Guys, they run into everything. They're like little torpedoes, very annoying. And we can't forget about stink bugs that take over every fall. Guys, these will be on your doors and screens and windows. And if you do see a stink bug, don't squash it because it smells horrible. So the next negative is Charlotte, North Carolina is frankly big, guys. It's not waterlogged or landlocked, so it's really growing in all directions. And one big challenge, especially if you don't know the area, is it's really hard to tell where one neighborhood and suburb ends and another one starts. Also, if you're coming into town to check out a few neighborhoods around Charlotte and the Charlotte area, depending on their location, you could have a pretty long drive. I mean, you could be between 45 minutes to an hour from one neighborhood to another, especially depending on traffic. I'll tell you, I just moved from one part of Charlotte to the opposite part of Charlotte, and depending on traffic, it could take me about 45 minutes to an hour to get from one house to the other one I just moved to. And this is also why you want to make sure you have a really good game plan before you actually come visit Charlotte and start learning the area and neighborhoods, so you're not wasting a ton of time driving from one part of Charlotte to the other part of Charlotte, then back to the other part of Charlotte. You have a nice systemized approach to really see and experience all you need to find that perfect community for you. And feel free to call us. We'd be happy to help guide you guys in making that plan so you can get the most out of your trip. Our next negative about living here in Charlotte is definitely the traffic. Now, our traffic's not as bad as some major metropolitan cities like Los Angeles or Atlanta, but guys, we're a pretty big city, so you're gonna run into a lot of traffic. And keep in mind, over 100 people a day are moving to the Charlotte area, so we're a rapidly growing city. Now, I will tell you, our city's doing the best that they can to keep up with this growth. They're always working on roads, expanding highways, and doing things to really mitigate the traffic issues we face here in Charlotte. So just like other metropolitan cities, rush hour can be quite congested. So especially in the mornings when you're going to work and in the evenings when you're coming from work, you'll probably run into a lot of traffic. In the mornings going to the Charlotte area, usually in the evenings coming from the Charlotte area to the suburbs surrounding Charlotte. Now, the one really good thing is there are a lot of secondary options, other routes you can take because we're not land or water locked. So there's a lot of different other avenues and ways once you know the area, you'll find your own path that works best, where you can really kind of mitigate and skip some of that traffic to get home. But depending on where you live, you can take advantage of Charlotte's extensive light rail system, and they are continuously expanding it, bringing it farther and farther out, giving more people the option to use that public transportation. And this brings us to the next negative here in Charlotte, North Carolina. And guys, there's no other way to say this. We have really bad drivers here. Now, we're not as bad as Florida. Sorry, Florida. My wife's from Florida. I can say that. But we do still have quite a lot of bad drivers here. It does always seem like nobody's paying attention. Everybody's on their phones and not really paying attention to the road. And I'll tell you that any inclement weather, people just forget how to drive completely here. So the bad driving does get a little bit worse when there's any type of inclement weather, especially ice or snow, but you'll also experience it when it's raining. People slow down quite a lot. So it's definitely something you want to keep an eye on, but that's something you probably see in many cities in the United States. The next negative is Charlotte, North Carolina has a lot of transplants living here in Charlotte, North Carolina. Remember, over 100 people every single day move to the Charlotte area. It is quite rare to run into somebody that says they actually grew up here in Charlotte. And I'll tell you, I grew up here and I personally seen all the changes Charlotte, North Carolina has went through, and I barely recognize this city because of the amount of growth we've seen through the years. So a large majority of people who call Charlotte home have recently transferred to the Charlotte, North Carolina area. And I'll tell you, for the longest time, it kind of felt like Charlotte was missing a little bit of that kind of culture or vibe you see in some other major cities. But I will tell you that has definitely changed over the past few years. Charlotte, North Carolina has a very strong and diverse culture from all around the world. And you can see it in everything from our food, our music, and all the fantastic things to do here. And the next negative here in Charlotte is we don't have any beaches or mountains, but Charlotte does have 3 fantastic lakes right nearby. And lake life is fantastic. I personally love going out on the boat, wakeboarding, hanging out with some friends, and enjoying that beautiful sun when it's not freezing out here. And the great thing is, you are just a quick day trip away from some fantastic destinations people love to vacation at. We're super close to Charleston, Myrtle Beach, Wilmington. The Outer Banks are a little bit farther, but you still can get there in about 6.5 hours. So if you want to go to the beach, you can easily get there and spend a nice weekend on the beach. And if you do want that mountain life, it's a quick day trip in the other direction. We're about 2.5 hours away from the Appalachian Mountains. So you can go visit Asheville, Blowing Rock, Boone. You can snowboard, you can hike, you can really just enjoy that mountainous weather. So I told you that the last negative would definitely surprise you, especially for you New Yorkers out there. And the last negative is the friendliness here in Charlotte, North Carolina. That's right, that's Southern charm and hospitality. Especially if you're the type that gets really impatient when you're in a grocery line, you're going to run into a lot of people that just frankly love having conversations. People may tell you a full-blown story when you're just asking for directions, but people here in Charlotte, they're just friendly. They're nice, they love their neighbors, and they just want to connect. So whenever you're walking down the street, you may see people smile. They may wave, they may start a conversation, right? When you're driving down and you pass another car in the neighborhood, they're probably gonna wave at you because they're friendly, they're hospitable, they just exemplify that Southern hospitality, which in my opinion, it's a really nice thing to have that camaraderie in a city. So that wraps up this video of what we really consider some of the worst negatives about Charlotte, North Carolina. But no matter where you move, there's always going to be a few negatives. But really, if you look at the negatives and positives side by side, you'll find that it really balances each other out, or it really minimizes a lot of the negatives. And frankly, Charlotte, North Carolina is a fantastic place to live. It's a thriving and growing city that you're gonna absolutely love when you move here. So this list is really things you really want to make sure you know about and you're aware of so you can be prepared when you move here. But none of them are really unmanageable. So whether you're looking to move in the next 9 days or 90 days, feel free to give us a call, text us, email us, or schedule a Zoom call. We would love to connect to learn a little bit more about what you're looking to accomplish and how we can help you make your transition to the Charlotte area as smooth as possible. Guys, thank you so much for watching. I'll see you around town.